So if you take a look on our design board here, what we have done so far is we successfully created this kitchen here based on our original sketch. Now, we did that using Revit, which is great for documentation, which include doing the floor plans and the interior elevations. Now, in order to do detail designing, we're going to need to go into a different software that allows us to go deeper into the details. So after we achieve the general design, if we look back on our design board here, there are some specific things that we wanted to do. For example, we wanted to use specific lights here. We wanted to have this particular sink. We wanted to have specific handles, right? So we already selected the type of handles we want to have, and we wanted to represent the type of equipment. Notice that this is gold plated and the faucet has a particular style. The knobs have a particular style. The cupboards also have a particular look. So this is where you need to balance between using a program for drawing documentation and then a program for detail designing. Revit will give us the overall dimensions for our kitchen, but it won't give us the exact decor that we plan to use, the exact cupboards that we plan to use. Now we can use Revit to do that, but what we would recommend for this workflow is that we're going to now go into Sketchup in order to put in some of these special decorations that we have for our kitchen. After we do that, then we're going to take that into Twinmotion, and then our renderings will look quite nice because we would have added all of those details from SketchUp. So let's go ahead and jump into SketchUp so we can start adding some of these details from our Revit model. Now back into Revit, what we plan to do here is we're going to export this as an IFC, and that's how we're going to take it into SketchUp. So we're going to go to File, Export IFC, and we'll get this dialog box that comes up. Now we can leave pretty much everything at default. We're just going to browse to choose where we want to save this file. So we're going to save it in IFC exports, and we're going to call it Interior Project 06. And I'm going to click Save and choose Export. Great. Now, once you do that, the IFC file is there, and SketchUp can read IFC files pretty well. So what we're going to do now is jump into SketchUp. Okay, so once we open SketchUp, we're going to get presented with the welcome screen. Now, this that I'm using is going to be SketchUp Pro, right? And when we look at the different units that we can use, we're going to choose, we can choose millimeters to be consistent with our model, and it's going to open up like that. Now, your SketchUp might open differently. Notice I have all of my tools here because I've gone into View Toolbars and I've enabled a large tool set, right? All right, so the first thing we want to do is to import our model. So we're going to go to File, Import, and we're going to go to our folder and choose Interior Project 06. And we're going to choose Import, Close, and there you go. So this is our Revit model now imported into SketchUp. And you can see that SketchUp did a pretty good job of importing it. You can see the scale is pretty much on par, right? And now we can really use the freedom of a modeling program to add in any finer details that we might want, right? So because this is inside, one of the first things we want to do is we want to go to View or Camera, and we want to go to Adjust our field of view. I want to pull that back so that we can have a bit more to look around. Now we're only going to be concentrating on the kitchen area, and what we're going to do is take a look over here, and I want us to take a look on our design board that we had here. And if you notice, we had actually picked out some ideas that we want to execute here in the design board. So one of the first things is that the type of cupboards that Revit has is very plain, and we definitely wanted to use this kind of style. So the advantage of being in SketchUp is that you have SketchUp 3D Warehouse at your fingertips, which is a great resource that we can use. So if you head over to just type 3D Warehouse, and if you look for it in Google, it will be the first thing that pops up. Now you do need to sign in, which it's free, so you can just make an account and sign in. And for example, we might want to look for maybe cabinet doors, maybe so. And we do get a couple of options here, and we basically just want to look for a cabinet door that looks like the style that we would use. Here are a few here, cabinet doors. Now, what I'll do, I will just, let me see if this one is okay. I'll just click here and we can just click download, and then we can actually just drag this directly into our model like that. And we can inspect these cabinet doors. Let me look around here, and they're okay, but not quite the cabinet doors that I would want. So I can just undo that and we can continue looking. So I'm going to hit back. Oh, I can go here. So this is basically the process that we would do. We would try to find cabinet doors. So if we look around, we can see this cabinet door is pretty good. So I'm going to download this one and I'm going to drag this one in. And this is actually looking pretty nice. It has a little bit more detail that you can see here, you know. And this is the thing that will let the renderings look really nice, because it has these details. Now you can see that the default cabinets from within Revit doesn't have that much detail. For drawings, that's no problem. But if we're going to do a presentation, then we're going to need it to have more details. All right, so if I double click this, I can see that this is one group here, and then this inside part is another group. So we're just going to merge all of that together. So I'm going to double click and I'm going to explode this group. So now everything is one group, and that way I can just adjust this by moving one side like that, and then everything keeps proportional. All right, lovely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my move tool, and I'm just going to move this in place. I'm going to put it about right here, Let me put this here. Then I'm going to rotate this way so it's exactly there. And then I'm going to adjust this. So I'm going to select this side here. Now, if I can't see through this, what I'm going to do is just go to view and go to face style and just change it to X-ray. So now I can see it. I'm going to use M, drag this over to there. I left the piece behind. Let me go again. All right, so I'm going to select everything there and drag this over. And I have some pieces here. I'm going to just, and that should be okay. All right, I'm going to leave that part there because that's inside. All right. Now I'm going to go to view, face style, turn off view, face style, and I'm going to turn off X-ray. All right. So now I'm going to just replace, I need to carry up the bottom part, like that. There you go. Then I'm also going to adjust the depth. So here is the back. I'm going to double click and I'm going to push this flush like that. All right. So now all I need to do is to replace the Revit version. So I'm going to copy this and press Ctrl to copy this over. There you go. Then I also have some drawers that's going to be up here. Okay, so now I'm going to move this, copy this, and this is going to be for the drawers. So here. Now, what I want to do is I want to make this unique because I'm about to change this height here. So I'm going to change this height. And notice for the draw, now the draw is a bit more slim. So what I'm going to do is I need to make this a little bit smaller, and I'm going to use an exact measurement. So I'm going to move this about 30 millimeters, and I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to move this about 30 millimeters. Same thing for this side and same thing for this side. All right, then I'm going to move this all the way up. Right, there we go. All right, then I'm going to copy this one over here. Great. Now let's see how that is turning out. So I'm going to go into the group, the IFC group that came from Revit. And what I'm going to do, everything is grouped together. So I'm going to right click and say explode. And I'm going to say explode again because they are grouped multiple times. Explode again, and everything is still grouped. So explode again, explode. So now I'm able to go into each object. So now I'm going to go into this object that's here, and I can delete, it's going to delete the cabinet. So I need to go into this and say explode. And now I'm able to delete each cabinet. So now I'm left with this along with the handles. And I'm also going to delete the handles as well, because we're going to be using our own handles. All right. So we can see that this kitchen here is looking much more detailed. And if we take a look on our design board that's here, you can see that it's looking similar to what we have for our design board for our kitchen. But now, before we go any further, let us put on our door handles to match what we have in our design drawing. Now, what we want to do is we want to use these type of handles, right? So we are gonna look for that. And if we type door handles, should be able to, there we go. So we're gonna download this one in. All right, and then we're gonna move that into place. We're gonna use the move tool and we're gonna just place it there. Now, of course, it's a bit oversized, so let's rotate that 90 degrees, and we're definitely gonna scale it down, and I think it comes out too much, so we definitely need to take it inward this side. And now we're gonna place these handles on our door. Still a little too big, so we're gonna scale that down. There we go. And what we're doing here, we're just kind of eyeballing it a little bit, so we're gonna copy this over here, and that's okay because what we're doing is trying to design this. So we're trying to do a detailed design, and that is based on our design sketch that we have here. So we are using these cabinet door styles, but we want to use this type of handle. Now, as you can realize, Revit would not give you this design flexibility. So this is why we would do this using Sketchup, so that our kitchen can have should have some nice details for our rendering. And then we're gonna copy that over here. Doesn't matter if it doesn't line up 100% with the center. This is okay. It's kind of a sketch. Now, if this is looking like what we want, then we would want to now select these two here, and we would actually, what we would do is we would cut this, go into this group, and then paste in place. And that way, so let me delete this. So what happens now is that these are exactly the same because we've added this to the group. And then we can mirror this that way, like that. And we can do the same thing here. We're gonna cut this, go into this group, and then go paste back in place. There we go. So now these are grouped, and now we can pretty much duplicate these in different locations. So we have a similar cabinet on this side. So the first thing we're gonna do is copy all of these doors. Copy that. Then we are gonna, let's flip it. So we're going to use the flip tool there, and then we're going to move it in place right there. There we go. Then we're going to go into this group and we're going to explode it, and then we're going to delete the original doors from. All right, that's looking pretty nice. Now let's go ahead and do the other doors. So we're going to replace this one here. So we're going to copy this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to right click and make this unique, and we're going to move this side in. Now we had to make it unique or else these would have edited over here. Select this here, and then we're going to move this upward. There we go. And we're going to explode this and delete this door. So now we have that. And now we're going to do this, and we're going to do this side here. So we're going to make that way, and then rotate it, and then move it in place. Great. Now we're going to do the same thing for these guys here, and we're going to move it. These are a little bit bigger. So what we can actually do with this one is we're going to make it unique, and then we're going to extend it. Then we're going to mirror this. Or we're going to mirror copy. So we're going to press Control, and then we mirror. Actually, we're going to click hold and drag this to the center point, and then release, and then we have a mirror automatically. Pretty cool. All right. Then actually for here, we're not going to edit this just yet because we're going to edit the sink, and that might change this part. So we're going to leave that for now. We're going to change these ones up here. Copy that, mirror this way, and then mirror it that way. Then I'm going to make it unique. All right. Then we're going to do this one. We're going to rotate this, and we're going to create a rotated copy. There we go here. And then we're going to rotate this, copy. Okay. All right. So let's delete these doors. So we're going to explode this and then delete that and delete that door. And I believe all of this actually rotates. So we are going to make this unique, and we are going to move all of this and do the same thing for this one. Then we're going to remove that. There we go. All right. So that's done. Now for these, we could choose to replace these low detail versions, but it would look pretty similar. Let's finish these over here. So what we're going to do is select all of these. We have this one remaining. So we are going to grab these guys here and do one of them, make unique, grab the back of this guy here and push it all the way there. Then what we're going to do is mirror copy this upward like that and make this unique. All right, that's good. Then we're going to mirror this on the other side. So we're going to mirror copy using the midpoint. There we go. All right, now we can explode this cabinet and delete. There we go. All right, that's looking nice. So we have went through. Hold on, we have to do one more. This guy here. I'll explode that and delete that, and we need to replace that with this version here. So we're going to mirror copy this. All right, that's good. So we can see we have added some interesting details to our kitchen. It's looking much nicer. Okay, so now we need to change out some of the fixtures. So we have a fridge that's here. We have a stove. So let's look up some stoves. Okay, so now we're gonna look for some stoves. And if we type the word stove, we will see a bit here. This looks a little big. This one might look good. So we're gonna download this one, drag that in. There we go. So we're gonna delete this stove and replace it with this one here. It's a bit nicer. All right, good. Now this might be a little shorter, so we're just gonna make this a bit taller like that. And what we can do is adjust the feet. Okay, we're just gonna carry this down and then carry up. There we go. All right, so we have our stove in. All right, so let's look at now our sink. And this type of sink is called a farmhouse sink or an apron sink. So let's do a search for that. So we have quite a bit of options here. Let's look for farmhouse sink, see what that gives us. All right, great. All right, so we're gonna download this one and there we go. Now, so basically what we want to do is we're gonna replace our sink that came with Revit. So we're gonna delete that. So we're gonna delete everything, leaving the doors, and we are gonna try to this into that space. So we're gonna grab this. It may not fit exactly, but it's pretty close. So that is good. That's good. All right, so a couple of things we need to do to fix this in place. So this is actually a pretty nice fit. All right, so let's adjust the base here. So let's hide our doors. Right, so first thing we need to do is adjust this base. So we want to select here and move that there. Then we want to delete these doors. Now I'm deleting it partially because I don't want to accidentally delete the front face. All right, that's good. The colors, okay, so this doesn't come out as much, but I think that's the style of this sink here. So I'm going to unhide and then I'm going to adjust these doors. And we can always change the color of this when we render. We do need to continue our backsplash. So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to double click and grab this and just extrude it to use my pen tool to cut this. Use my line tool, cut that. Now I'm able to push this out. There we go. All right, now we have our sink to match our design board that's here. So we're doing pretty well. Now let's continue the backsplash here. So we're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna use my line tool, then push this. Now we're doing all of these edits here because when we go into our rendering program Twinmotion, it will look even nicer with all of these details. Our microwave didn't come over from Revit, so we're going to do that. We're going to download a microwave and also possibly a fridge. This fridge came from Revit, but I'm pretty sure we can get some nicer refrigerators from SketchUp. So let's take a look. Okay, so if we look for a refrigerator, these are pretty good. Let's download that one. Let's drag that in. All right, great. So we're gonna just align this. So I'm gonna grab the corner. Oops. There we go. Drop it right there. So we can get rid of the fridge from Revit and move this fridge in that. And this fridge is a little smaller than we had here. So we could choose if we want to modify this from, we can either change it from within Revit or we can change it here, but we're just going to leave it as is for now. And this fridge is it's a pretty good fit. All right, so now that we have the fridge, we have the stove, we have the sink. So if we look back at our design board, we did have some lamps that we want to have over here. However, we did want a tray ceiling, and the idea was to have the ceiling come all the way to the top of the cabinet. So we didn't put a ceiling from within Revit. So we could choose to do that. We could put the ceiling from within Revit, but because we're here, we're just going to continue with SketchUp and we're going to just put a ceiling. So we're going to draw a rectangle like that. Before I do anything, I'm going to double click this and I'm going to right click and turn it into a component. So that way it doesn't get stuck to any other geometry. And then I'm going to extrude this downward to the surface of here. So like that. And then I'm going to extrude this outward to there. I'm going to use my pencil tool and extrude it this way. Good. Now I am going to cover everything here, but we're only going to be focused in on this area for our views. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this all the way to here. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to draw a rectangle inside of here and then extrude it this way. And then everything else, I'm going to cover it up with a rectangle because we do need to cover everything so that light doesn't get in for our render. Carry it all the way over there. Then I'm going to turn this into a component as well. And I'm going to extrude it downward. Looks like that's fine. Let's also do this space here. So angle inside here, extrude this outward. All right, so now we have a ceiling. So the idea is that we want to have a tray ceiling in the center. So let us use, I'm going to use my tape tool, which shortcut is T, and I'm going to draw off here. I'm going to put that. I'm going to draw off here and align this like that. And then I'm going to do this one. Make sure that I'm on an axis. All right, so I want to start from here. So I'm going to draw off one like this. Create another one. Like this. Right, so this is a good use of the tape tool. It can help us to align stuff properly. Now we do have to come out some more because this one is here, so we're going to have to come inward. So I'm going to offset this 120 and offset this 120. All right, then I go into this group here and I'm going to draw a rectangle like this. I'm going to push this in 1 foot. Maybe 1 foot is too deep. Let's try 10 inches. There we go. All right, so now we're going to remove these lines. Well, I'm going to keep it and then save, just in case I need to come back to that. All right, so now I'm going to delete these. All right, lovely. So now would be a good point to go into Twinmotion to start to set up our lighting. Now, before we go into moving into starting rendering in Twinmotion, I wanted to just take a look at where we're coming from. So on the left is our original Revit model that we have enhanced with details in SketchUp. And this is the original SketchUp model. So you can see that we've added way more details. If I zoom into here versus zooming into here, we can see that let me pull this back. So the typical Revit blocks is not as detailed as when we come into SketchUp and we can add more refinement. And this refinement in SketchUp is going to make the renderings look even better. And it's not just about the renderings. Some of the effects that we wanted to achieve, we could only do that in SketchUp because some of these details are very small, right? So for example, little things like the faucets and the stove, those are not things that it would make sense to model or to get models of in Revit. So by coming into SketchUp, we were able to add additional details.